That don't mean nothing, man. He doesn't talk. Hey guys, we are live. This is Beard of Darkness book reviews, and we're a little late. But in the business of live shows, we have things that happen. It happened earlier today with Alex Robbins, and just like my luck, it happened a little bit before this. But we're here, and I'm not lagging now. And hold on, the green screen's good now. John A. Douglas. Oh my gosh, this has been a long time coming, my guy.
It sure feels like it. I got to tell you, this whole journey has felt like I felt like a dog chasing a car, and now I finally caught the car, and I'm not quite sure what in the world to do with it.
Like the air comes out the back, and you're like trying to bite it and shit. Like I don't know what to do with it. Oh my goodness. So what do we got? We've got some people here, man. Hail the lore.
Everyone's favorite mod. Dude's a solid supporter.
I love that, man. Thank you so much for being here. Herman P. Hunters, the Lore Forge. This is another head fake. Nope, we're here. We're here, my friend. I love the beard, too. I can see a little bit in your picture. Who's that guy? Oh, that's me. Sorry. Soul Free Wolf. Thank you, man. He's between both of us. He's always here for both of our things. I've noticed him over with you. I've noticed him here. Christopher Brand, the Tribe Assembles. Yes. Thank you for being here. Tim Allen. Yeah. Okay. Groovy. I love that. That's wonderful. And the man, the myth, the legend. Yeah. Hold on. Let's do it.
Jeffrey Spate. I got it first.
He did. But I got them both. There it is.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Spate.
Channel. It was nice enough to leave a blurb for the back of my book. It was wonderful.
Hey, dude, I seen that. That was the first review I saw for your the Black Crown. We're gonna get into that here in a second. But what a wonderful my green screen, guys. The green screen is a learning curve for me. I'm sorry, but no, Jeffrey Spate, man, he that was wonderful. And I've been talking to him for a while. He's such a nice guy. Wouldn't you agree, John?
Oh, absolutely. And a fellow half-orc enjoyer as well as a main protagonist is a half-orc paladin named Umra the Peacebreaker. How badass is that?
Look, yeah, when you start his books, it's like, so me, to get my attention, we're on it. Like if you start an adventure, look, you've got my heart singing and my belly doing flops. I'm not joking. That's the real feeling I get. I'm like, let's go. There's orcs. There's all sorts of people. And John is infamous for asking, what is your favorite fantasy race and why is it an orc? Yeah. I love it.
Someone had to be the orc guy. What can I say? And nobody else was picking that title up. So I took that football and ran with it.
I love it. Hey, orcs. Anytime that I'm watching Lord of the Rings, I just have to look, I can look in the mirror and know that if I had some tusks or I would definitely be an orc. If Peter Jackson ever calls me, I'm like, look, hook me up with the orc position. Man, so I'm so excited to get to the reason we're here. Let's talk about what is the name of your book. We all know it, but let's hear it from you. What is the overview? Give us a little bit of the blurb, the subgenre, the whole deal, man.
This is just the proof copy. You can see the gray bar.
I love proof copies.
There's the actual first building steps, the actual first building blocks for this particular story. So when I was about 3 years ago, because it was kind of born from the idea of coming up with interesting new characters for my D&D campaigns. And I was playing around with the notion of, well, what could you do with the first character that I even created for the setting was a side character later in the novel named Ollie, who is a half goblin, half elf. And I'm like, what would that look like? What would you pick up from one parent and what would you pick up from the other parent?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, what if she had a half sister who was half orc and she was like a little green Tasmanian devil? And then I just started, playing around with other, half breeds and fantasy settings. I came up with this idea of I like characters who are somewhat atypical. And you found this a recent reviewer just not that long ago, the book and beverage reviews. A nice reviewer named Jane just gave me a really great review she picked up on this. Like all the characters that I like to take tropes. I like to take well-known things, and I kind of like to put just a little bit of an off-kilter spin to them. So when I came up with the main character you see here on the front, his name is Prince Ragoth. He is a half-orc prince. Normally, especially in D&D settings and traditional fantasy, nomenclature, when you think of the half-orc is usually the heavy of the group. The half-orc is, taller, a little dumber than the rest of takes that hit in intelligence, which I've never really cared for. It's kind of that whole binary between strength and intelligence is just, to me, it's game mechanics, and it doesn't even apply in real life all that well. But he, compared to a lot of other half-orcs, Rags is a bit of a runt, right? He takes more from his human parentage, and that was where I was thinking, well, okay, what if I take this character and I put him in the setting of, traditional orcs? What would that look like? That kind of started, that ended up being reverse engineering the entire story for this book, and wound up being something that I ended up learning along the way. It was 3 years from conception to now publication. So it was on a bit of a slow boil over time, but from all the reviews that I'm getting, it's definitely paid off in the way that I wanted it to pay off.
I love that, dude. I'm so happy for you, man.
Yeah.
So repeat the name of the main character we see here on the front.
This is Ragoth. His nickname is Rags to his friends, especially when shenanigans happen. I'll get into like the kind of the start of the book. And then if anybody wants to kind of take a bite out of the narrative before you buy the book, if you go to my mailing list at johnadouglas.com, sign up for the mailing list right there at the bottom. You can get 5 free chapters. And
that's a lot.
Yeah. The prologue, 2 Rags chapters, and 2 Cortland chapters. And that helps set up the rest of the book very well. You will definitely enjoy those. You'll get a good sense of where the book's going and what it's about, and see if you like it or not. It's 193,000 words. So like, I didn't mind giving away like 5 chapters. Go ahead.
I love that. Look, full disclosure, John enlisted me to do his website, and it was, look, I've done websites in the past, but I haven't done author websites. So go check it out. I'd love some feedback if you guys have it. Yeah. I want to do the best for him, and I'm going to continue to update it, this and that.
It's still a work in progress. Hi, HC Noel. It's still a work in progress. We're going to, get it nice and pretty over time. It's fill with as much content as possible. Yeah. And if you're interested in like some more deeper dives into the lore, if you go to my YouTube channel, I have a playlist called Age of Adventures, which is the setting for this world that I've created, Allspire. And you can take a deep dive into the 5 hard rules that I have for it, the some of the history, some of the lore, some of the factions, and a lot more will be coming on in later. Will be coming on later. So once that gets, that's always evergreen content for your channel, guys. It's just a little something I thought would, kind of for potential readers can go and look and get a little more lengthy diatribe of something. I lost that thought process. You'll find that happens. Hold on.
So on the website too, I found out something super cool. All the lore, the history, the 5 rules is also on the website. Charlie Cavendish, man, what a reviewer! This guy just pumps them out. He's doing Kiwi and Aussie showcasing right now. He does a wonderful job for Fanfi Addicts. I love everything he does. Hey, John, how does it feel on publication day?
My dopamine levels are unchartable at the moment. I'm not going to lie. It feels very satisfying to finally, get a story out there after talking about it for so long. One of the things that I've learned over time is not to talk too much about it too early. Otherwise, people kind of lose interest. So I saved a lot of the talking about the book for like the month of release. And I had a lot of editorial issues and life issues and monetary issues, a lot of stuff that got in the way between, getting it ready and actually being able to put it out there. But, it's out there, and we've, got it set up, and I've got a good infrastructure for future books in the Age of Adventures to come.
I love that. When I met John, when I started so let's get like full disclosure.
You have.
What is it?
Nothing. That was my wife talking to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. So when I met John, he was just, I could tell that he was working hard. He's a man for the community. He's in a bunch of communities. Iron Age. He likes the fantasy booktube. That's where me and him get along.
Yeah.
Comics, all that fun stuff. And you can just tell he's working hard. He's got a mission. And I'm just so glad to see that has come to fruition. And I'm so excited to just see what happens next, man. I'm happy for you because I know how much work you put, and you've got a full-time job. You're an LPN. You've got a busy schedule, man. I love it. So you've got to answer the first couple questions. Sorry, I had to reiterate. What was the inspiration behind the Black Crown?
Took a lot of inspiration from a lot of different sources. Some of the best storytelling that's inspired me in my writing a career has been, I watched a lot of cartoons in the 90s, and the cartoons in the 90s,
Yes.
you might sound simple but you go back and look, some of this stuff is very, very well written. And that kind of influenced into how I approach the structure of a story, and especially maintaining good character dynamics. Look, you go back and look at some of these things. Even if you're an aspiring writer, a beginning writer, even if you're a more advanced writer, you can still learn really good character dynamics from these particular these kinds of shows like Gargoyles, and I used to watch like Rescue Rangers, Ninja Turtles, stuff like that. Having different character archetypes in a group, and having what I call the 3 C's of character creation, which is conflict, complement, and contrast, where you can have any and all of those combinations. The thing is with my approach to writing, if you don't care about the characters that are in the world, readers aren't going to care about the world, what happens to the world around them, right?
Yeah. Yep,
so, a lot of the focus, it's a very character-driven book. And one of the biggest writing inspirations from me was a writer author that I read throughout the 2000s, almost to excess. Almost everything she wrote was Australian author Sarah Douglas. I've
seen you post her. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I've seen you post her, and I'm very interested. Keep going. I'm sorry.
She's got this very interesting way of marrying the kind of epic heroism and romance of, past fantasy with the much more kind of gritty and at times very dark elements that started to pop up in fantasy in like the 90s, late 90s into the 2000s. It's not a very apt description, but you could almost equate her to George R. Martin with a vagina, because there's some books in her series that can get really dark when it comes to like the sexual and the sex and the violence and how they're portrayed. But she also, unlike a lot of modern writers, understood what appeals to male and female readers, and she made characters that were appealing to both sexes. She's one of the very few female authors I've read that really gets how to make good characters that appeal to all kinds of readers. And so not everybody's cup of bag, because she can get kind of dark, but
I'm very interested.
It's something else. It's and I kind of relate to her story too. She was a according to her, she said, a failed romance novelist who was also a nurse that hated her job, and she saw books as her escape from that job. And she kept pounding out the manuscripts until one finally clicked, and that was the Wayfarer Redemption, and off she went and was writing up until her unfortunate passing in 2011 from ovarian cancer. Rest her soul.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, because, man, that just adds to her story. It sounds like she was very passionate about what she was doing.
She was very good about it.
That's wonderful.
Very good. And I will say, unlike some fantasy authors, Rothfuss and Martin, most of her series are actually finished.
Okay, yeah, that's a very attractive quality to fantasy readers. We all look for those, and I know a lot of people who won't read a book until like the trilogy, the saga is finished. Now, there's some that I'll take a chance on. One that I just recently took a chance on was because I just know how ambitious he is. I know he'll finish it. Is Rob J. Hayes' the God Eater saga. But there's many people who will not pick up a book unless that trilogy's finished, that saga's finished. So it's a good point. Timothy says, Timothy Wolf, what a wonderful guy, man. Indie author, Platinum Tinted Darkness.
Yeah, I've got his book up here somewhere.
Yeah, me too. I love it.
What I did. It's probably behind me.
It's it's one of those things, the general area, because if you're like me, I like separate everything. So I know like within 3 books where it's at.
Yeah.
But he says, did you go the Kindle Unlimited route?
No, not yet. I don't really know anything about that. I know there is some discussion about whether or not to go that route, but maybe one day. But I think for right now, I just want to kind of get the book out there, and start building up readers, and we'll see what happens in the future. And if it looks like it could be something a little more viable and a lot more people are wanting to read it, we'll go for it.
So, as somebody who wants to write and be in the shoes that you have filled just now with releasing your book, which is me, I'm curious as to why or what the process is to go with Kindle Unlimited or not. What are the pros and cons?
I have no earthly idea, and I've only seen some authors talking about it, very, kind of on the side. So I'm kind of curious about it myself. I haven't had any serious discussion about it just yet.
Okay, no, that's wonderful. We both have things to learn, and I think that that's the best thing too, is learning. That's why I'm here. I'm here to learn. Excuse me. Let's check the comments, because I'm getting better though about talking and keeping these comments right. Charlie, I was already keen to read The Black Crown, but doubly so once I saw that Jeffrey Spite thought about it. I think that that's wonderful. He did such a nice thing. Philip Chase, thank you for popping in here, man. You're a super inspiration to all of us. I cannot wait to read the Edan trilogy.
Yeah. Did you see his new recording area? That looks awesome.
Yeah, it does. Oh my gosh. It doesn't surprise me.
Corner office, books from ceiling to floor. It looks great.
Yeah, I hope to one day have a recording area like that, so I don't have to play with this stupid thing.
I've got my corner of the bedroom, and it's not much, but it's mine.
Exactly. You're doing what, and it's a staple. It's something that people look forward to seeing. If it changed, people would absolutely notice instantly. It's what I look for when I watch your content. Let's see over here. Wow, there's lots of comments, guys. Thank you so much. I like that. Philip says it's fun to teach. I think that that's so cool that you're just a man of knowledge. You're right there. Your passion is important. I think that's so wonderful. Having a broad range, Christopher D. Brand says, having a broad range of storytelling knowledge is important. Movies, TV, books, even pro wrestling. Oh, man. Yeah.
I've mentioned that in the past. I have a video series that I've been wanting to, chomping at the bit to get done before too long, but I've held back on a lot of videos until I get the book out, because it's kind of there's a certain look about something, or if you don't actually have work out there and you're giving writing advice, it kind of causes a little people to kind of look sideways at you. But I long maintained that there's a lot that writers can learn from pro wrestling and pro wrestlers in a storytelling and even marketing fashion. I've taken a lot of those cues myself, especially in the marketing and trying to build up, hype and interest. And, now I'm on Launch Week, and a lot of those strategies have kind of paid off in a big way.
Oh, yes. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's the kind of knowledge.
Thank you, Matt.
Matt, thank you for popping in. One of my guys, man. One of the guys from the beginning. I really, really get along with him.
Listen, I have the best orcs. They're very, very good. Most of them are green, too.
I love it. Congratulations, John. Make orcs great again. Yes, my guy. I love that. I love that statement in so many ways for so many reasons. EC Greaves in the house, daughter of the beast. Thank you for popping in from New Zealand. That's my wonderful.
I appreciate it, bro.
New Zealand accent. He is such a cool dude, man. I love talking to him. He's the funniest guy, and he's so talented. He wrote his trilogy on a train to a job he hated on his phone. on his
Dude,
phone.
I wrote a lot of this book on my phone too, before I figured out I could use Google Docs on different computers. And I had a very steady night shift. I would get into work and I would have like 5 uninterrupted hours. And about the halfway point in the book, I was sitting there just like, I'm talking 3,000 to 5,000 words a night. I
Oh
was
my goodness.
turning out on a phone, emailing the text to myself and slapping it together. That was a nightmare to kind of put that all together. But yeah, and
Phone bros
now
for life.
right, it took a little too long. Now I know I can use Google Docs on any computer and at home and the computer at work or wherever, and I can just sling it all together and it's saved automatically. I got to tell you, that feels good because I come from the time when you had to save, and if you didn't save and so, like the power flickered and you lost what you wrote, there's nothing I hate more as a writer than having to rewrite something
because it's
that
different.
you already wrote, and the more of it there is, the worse it is. Oh my god.
I haven't experienced that yet, but I hope I never do. I'm trying to take your experience and make it not mine.
Yeah,
because that would piss me off a little bit. So I have to say something. BellTube, he's a new booktube channel. Dude, he's doing things. Yes, me too. He's doing things right. Me and him scheduled to talk soon. I forget the date. I can't wait. But guys, go subscribe. He's doing things right off the rip, man. Like after 2 videos, I think he had like 200 subscribers. Like, bro, come on.
Yeah, BellTube gets it. I see in the chat there, ZS Demonte. I found him over on Instagram not that long ago. He's the only other booktuber I found that also wears Redcon gear when he's doing his videos. Yeah, Redcon represent, bro.
Yeah, I've had him on my channel, and he is just a class act. I ordered one of his book, Stone. Oh, look at that cover. I mean, come on.
I know. This is what happens on every stream, anywhere I go. Even if the subject's about me, I always have to stop and chill for other people. But it's
got to.
If you guys go by and look in like the early part of my channel, like the first year or so, a lot of it was dedicated to pop culture commentary. And, that was kind of what was going around. I was taking cues from like Eric July and Geeks and Gamers, Nerdrotic, just talking about these things, these, modern mainstream entertainment. And I reached this point, especially about the time I started doing about a year ago, started doing live streams. I got tired of giving Hollywood the benefit of the doubt, which is where you'll see me getting into a lot of arguments on Twitter. If you follow me for any length of time, is I do not get hyped for new shows and new movies anymore because they have disappointed me for so long. I got fed up with it. I got tired of it. And not just writing what I wanted to see, what I wanted to be entertained by, but in delving into the indie fantasies, I have been way more entertained. It's been emotionally and creatively fulfilling to read these characters. I would rather read another Jim Wilburn novel than have a 2-season perfect adaptation of Lord of the Rings. Okay. Because it's not being made. They're not being made by the right people for the right intentions with the right heart. Like, guys, we're all in the nerd space, but a lot of these people in Hollywood, they don't like us. They don't like our hobbies. They don't like our interests. That's why a lot of these adaptations are coming across so poorly. They're only doing it because there's been money in it. And now we're starting to see, some of that interest get dried up, and they're blaming everybody but themselves. But I have not been disappointed by indie fantasy books at all.
Never. Not a single. So that's what really sold your channel to me when I first got. I mean, look, I've been a huge supporter of you in the Iron Age.
That was the pivot. I realized because you mentioned earlier all the different circles that I'm running around in. Everybody's got something that they want to present, but there's not as many channels doing what you and I did. Dude, you've blown up in such a good way. Not everybody was doing like we're doing and saying, hey, I'm just going to make a place for other people to come on and talk about their projects and, present that. And for whatever little my 1,000 subs is worth, maybe it can get a really good an indie author in front of someone and that person becomes their new favorite, right? That's what happened to me with a lot of them. Like, there's a lot of indie authors up here. I'm their biggest fan, and they're not going to get rid of me, unfortunately.
No. So the thing is, what I agree with you most is opening up a channel for a chance to be a part of something so much bigger than me is really just the highlight of what I do. And I think, can you agree with that?
It's been great. It's become much more creatively fulfilling than joining the chorus. And look, I'm not saying there's not a catharsis of enjoyment in watching people constantly slam on Disney failure. They just had another failure this weekend. And the guys that are slamming those projects, there's people that do it way more effectively than I can. But I also came to understand that at some point, and this is kind of one of the impetuses for the Iron Age, we need a alternative rather than just to say, wow, look at the latest Disney slop. It sucks. Well, it's been sucking for a long time. What else is new?
Yeah.
What do other people in the indie community have that Hollywood is not giving us? Singular visionaries, freedom, no editorial oversight. People writing what they want, how they want. That's the thing about the indies that truly moves me. And one of the reasons I made the decision to go the indie route with my eventual. Hey, Kyle, one of my buddies from Facebook. Good to see you, man.
Kyle, man? Thanks for popping in, dude. I appreciate you so much. You know what I love is like the crossover. We talk about this a lot when I come to your show or you come to mine, like in the chats. It's such a wonderful thing, and it's never this thing like I want to do better than you. It's like I want to bring all of us together and all of us be at the top. It's never a competition, and I love that. Now, like you said, if this was like a Hollywood thing, Andrew, thank you so much. Got to go back to work. Congratulations, John.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for popping in. And wonderful picture. Look at that bridge. That's beautiful. Everlay Music.
Everlay Music, yeah.
Thank you for popping in. I appreciate you. You know what we're doing tonight, and I've never done before, is the streaming of both channels. John was like, I'll stream it on my channel too. And I had no idea you could do that.
Yeah.
So it's so cool, man. Book Mama 87, she says, is purchasing from Amazon the best place to purchase Black Crown?
At the moment, it's the only place to purchase Black Crown. I have not, like I said, some of my infrastructure is still in the anemic stage. I do plan on being on different platforms at some point, and eventually being able to buy from my website directly. But that infrastructure is in progress. We'll get there eventually.
So once John is there's a couple things that he has to do, but as soon as he does it, the website will have everything you need to purchase his through his website. So that's something that I think is very important for new indie authors. Not that you're new, but you just had your first book, and I think it's very, very important to offer that through your own website. I think that's very cool. I think people would rather do that, like a signed or the book plates, which is a lot of work. And when we get there, we'll get there, man. And I'm so glad to kind of take this ride with you because I really look up to you, John. I like what you're doing, man.
You're killing it too. Like when I started watching your channel, and like every day I'm looking, he's interviewing like 2 indie authors a day. And I said earlier, it's like that scene in Civil War when Captain America blasts past Sam and goes, "On your left." And I'm just sitting there thinking, man, save some indie authors for the rest of us to interview, bro.
They have, look, the wonderful thing about what I do, if I'm interviewing an author, so let's just say Rob J. Hayes, who I just interviewed, I'm not watching his previous interviews because I don't want to know the answers. When I ask these questions, a lot of them are the same, but the answers I get are so different. So when you interview that person that I interviewed, it's going to be different. It's not going to be the same thing. So I'm just looking forward to who you interview next, who I interview next. And another thing, B.A. Turner, somebody that you've turned me on. I got a hold of him last night. What a nice guy. And he's going to be on the channel. Dude, you held that up. And I said, last night when you held that up, I instantly got a hold of him.
Vigilantes Creed duology. This is 2 books in one.
Duology.
He recently crowdfunded this. It was it's a dark urban fantasy inspired by the Gargoyles cartoon, and he's a
from the
big fan
90s, right?
Yeah, he's a big fan of like the Snyderverse and Gargoyles. And when I saw this art, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a work of art. I've got to have that on my shelf. This is what I do, folks. If you're watching me for the first time, I don't just shill my stuff. I shill all my friends' stuff too. Because
you have to, because listen, we're here for the Black Crown, but along those road and along the Black Crown's road, which is, like I said, why we're here. There's so many people who have influenced me personally, and I feel like you too. It's like we owe people the second that we hold up their book.
Well, the indie spaces are really booming. Indie fantasy is one area, but I've been trying to sound the horn for everybody. Like indie comics is big right now too, crowdfunding indie comics, and that's going to be my next step. I mean, hopefully, sometime next year is the next book will launch with a indie comic companion. If all goes well, and I know good people in the indie comic space that can kind of, show me what to do and, how to do it so that I'm not flailing and failing in that regard. But indie games, indie tabletop RPGs, and what is kind of missing is the circle breaking networking that needs to happen to try and get a lot of these. It's one of the biggest things about the Iron Age is that we're not as pretty as gold or shiny as silver, but we are stronger because we are doing this all ourselves. We are all learning new skill sets. We're learning the marketing. We're learning the networking necessary to do this. And I think the more decentralized and grassroots kind of reaching out that we do forms practically a parallel entertainment community that, Hollywood really doesn't have an oversight in. And maybe I'll never take I'm not looking to try and compete with them because you can't. They're a corporation, right? They have billions.
Billions.
But we can provide what a lot of people are missing, which is, creator-driven, visionary works that have their own unique voice. And they don't feel like corporate sludge that was written by committee. That's probably the biggest problem with a lot of the Hollywood is so much of what they make feels like it was written by committee, right? And it was written with checklists in mind. I read these different authors and I enjoyed them all, but they are all very different from one another. I like Jim Wilburn for very different reasons, and I like reading Jeffrey Spate. I like Ryan Williamson, who's a Weird West author, for different reasons than I like Christopher Brenning, who wrote The Hellborn King. Those could not be any more wildly different. But when you end up filtering a lot of stories through, through mainstream editors and sensitivity readers and all these other, shakedown tactics to try and get it to conform to a specific way, you can end up with something that's so edited down at times it can read like a Wikipedia article. And man, that's thank you, BellTube. I appreciate that. I don't have a preference, but I got to tell you, this will look really good on a bookshelf.
How many pages? How many pages do you got?
This is 653 pages.
Yes.
Now it does have like a little glossary at the beginning, some acknowledgments, the usual sort of fluff before it starts. So, I try and provide a lot of, I try not to do too much lore dump all at once. And, admittedly in a debut fantasy, you've got to start establishing some of the setting so that you know what's going on. I try not to overload someone with that. What's up?
I'm sorry. Do you have a number in mind for how long this the Age of Adventures will be?
The Age of Adventures is just going to be a setting that I can do almost any story in. I may not necessarily stick to, I'll have 2 entry-level points. This book and one coming next year called The Lionheart. And that'll be 2 entry points into the setting of the Age of Adventures. From there on, I can keep with those 2 series. And if I've got ideas for other series, different stories in different parts of the world of Allspire, that might not necessarily tie in. Think like the Liaden universe, or say maybe, for lack of a better term, like the Westeros. you can do George R. R. Martin can do different stories in different parts of the world that doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, a part of the main narrative that's going on there. So I may do some parallel stories of different sets of characters. There'll always be something interesting, even if you're not interested in the main series. Maybe there's a third or fourth series that's happening somewhere else that you might be a little more interested in, given what's going on. I always believe in writing outside a little bit of the genre that you're comfortable in, because you never know with you know, authors who come from outside the genre. Going back to Sarah Douglas, and she was a romance author who became a fantasy author. You can see the bones of that in her first book, The Wayfarer Redemption. Somebody writing from outside their genre is always going to put their own interesting spin on it. Like,
yes,
The Dark Tower is another good example. Stephen King wrote his own version of an epic quest, epic fantasy, and it's one of the more unique it's one of the more unique series in that kind of a genre. And it's very interesting. You know, I have my issues with The Dark Tower, but, you know, enjoyed it most overall.
I'll tell you what's cool. It's cool to me. So real quick, a little story. My dad, he doesn't read, and I think he's really inspired by what I'm doing. That's my dad right there, Jim Sorensen.
Yeah.
And I just want to say I'm really happy that he popped in. I think that I may be able to convince him to start reading. So let's all pray for that. And yeah, thank you, Soren. That's my last name. I don't offer that very often, so I just appreciate my dad popping in. Thanks, pops. And BellTube, physical it is. I agree, man. There's nothing like feeling that book. In your hand.
I really like having the physical books, and I've always enjoyed reading a physical book much more than than an e-reader. Although there is an appeal, I'm kind of torn. There is an appeal to having that Kindle app on your phone and having this whole library at your fingertips. And when it comes to like reviews, I find that I can actually read a lot quicker on an e-reader than I can with a physical book. So, you know, I'm kind of torn between both worlds. Like, I don't have a favorite anymore. It's you know, varying degrees of different.
Jason Brannigan just bought my copy of The Black Crown. Man, how do you feel that there's people buying this, dude? That has got to be the coolest.
I very much appreciate it. And, you know, all I can say is there's more to come. I've got a lot of stories in me. I've been writing my whole life. I've been writing since I was 13.
And so everything that he drops, guys, you can bet that we're going to be doing this, because I'm a fan of John. I love it.
But yeah, it's it all comes from a place of love, guys. I don't do, you know, I may romanticize writing a whole lot, but I love writing and I love reading, and it's some of the things that I've been done best at throughout my life. And now I've, you know, at the point where I can provide something, you know, people can get lost in and enjoy. And really, I've been using the phrase crowd pleaser to give this book a descriptor here lately, because that's really all I want for people when they get done reading, is to say, well, I really enjoyed that. You know, you get lost in a little adventure for a little while, and you know, not have to worry. I think sometimes, you know, a lot of writers go in, they want to be the next Martin. They want to be, you know, up at like Sanderson's level. And it's like, come on, you know, don't try to be the best someone else. Be the best you.
Yeah, I love that message, dude. I absolutely love that, because that kind of goes back to being an indie writer. Like, what I love about this niche that I fell into, I had no clue about it, and I'm just absolutely like, it's like a blanket. It makes me so nice and comfy. I love it. So I love it. Let's see over here. Physical for life.
Thank you.
I respect it.
Thank you both to everyone's buying. I appreciate it. Appreciate you. I'm very heartened and humbled by everyone's support, and I try and extend that as well. Though I figure the best thing that I can do. Look, I know what every author wants. They want somebody to love their book as much as they do. And that's easy for me, because I stopped putting all my time and energy and effort into these, you know, the corpo machine. I stopped caring about Star Wars. I definitely stopped caring about Marvel. And I was a big fan of the MCU. Don't get me wrong. I took all that kind of energy and I just put it into indie books. And, you know, I've been rewarded with banger after banger. I'm just some of the best stuff, even stuff I would not normally have picked up because of the content, because say John Palladino. He writes really dark, grimdark stuff. And grimdark's never been my main thing, but I'll read almost anything. And there were a couple times where he kind of pushed it to a level of,
dude.
Do I even still want to keep reading this?
It's like the second chapter. I almost put it down.
Yeah, I did too. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I actually DM'd him and I said, John, if I was not your friend and if I picked this up blind, I would have thrown this book across the room. But I trusted John and I've carried through.
He pulled through.
He really did. He really created something interesting, compelling, but at the same time dark. That's the cool thing about his characters is like they're all reprehensible in various ways, except for Sarah, I think. But at the same time, there's something compelling about them. You understand why they are the way they are.
Yeah. So if you guys are searching for, just to reiterate on John Palladino's book, brain fart, The Trials of Ashmount.
Yeah, Trials of Ashmount.
Yeah, if you like a little bit of a shock, but there's a reason for it, pick it up, guys. Wonderful.
Do you want the biggest shock of all? Ask him how much he spent to get this book to publication.
He's won awards too.
He has. It's paid off big. And
what would you consider the subgenre of the Black Crown?
This is going to feel a lot more like classic fantasy, classic epic fantasy. It's an epic quest. It's got a lot of elements that a lot of people like these days, and a lot of things that kind of appeal to me too, that I try to put my own spin on because, like I said, I like doing things that are off kilter or playing with, existing elements in an interesting way to make them feel like you're getting both something that feels in the same vein as something that's classic, but at the same time, a fresh take on it. And so if you liked, the biggest thing that influenced me, I always do this, guys. Don't mind me. I'm always reaching for books.
We're live for a reason. That's the gold, guys. You give us a second to grab.
This was when I first started reading at the age of 13. I was 12. The movie was just about to come out. This is the first book that I ever read, the first adult-sized novel that I ever read. And at the time, the mass paperback they had was thick. I mean, it looked like it was thicker than a Bible. And I read it, retained it, and I started digging into the Star Wars expanded universe. But when I hit fantasy, I had a friend who played D&D that finally convinced me to read fantasy. Belltube, I have not, but I love the covers and everything, and they look great. And I'm a fan of Brian's channel. It's probably on the list for next year because I've kind of got my TBR. It's a hot flaming dumpster fire, but he's on my TBR.
So I've started it, and let me just tell you, this guy writes like I don't know. He grabs you by the throat. He reaches out and grabs you by the throat and says, "You're going to read this." So
I enjoy that. I love the confidence of it. But look, the 1-2 combo that got me in first fantasy book was The Crystal Shard by R.A. Salvatore, and then I went straight from that into the Dragonlance novel. This was described at the time as the Star Wars of fantasy, and this was really the kind of thing that caught my attention. I kept reading both those book series, and then I started reading others. Like I found Sarah Douglas. I read Terry Goodkind, and I had a bit of a lull in my fantasy reading about 4 or 5 years. I didn't read much more than a couple books a year. And then I started picking up more. And I was looking into the traditional fantasies, but at the time I started going back into trad fantasy. Like they had done away with the nice oil painting covers and they were going with minimalist covers and, just designs. And the covers are what always grabbed me by the throat and made me want to read them. Right.
Yeah.
So that I couldn't have a cover that was anything less. Then I picked back up and I got into Kings of the Wild, and wow, what a book that is. Not just great because I'm kind of an old rock and roll fart myself, but You know, the fact that the main characters are, you know, dads past their prime that are going back in for one more adventure. I'm not exaggerating, Matt, when I say that The Kings of the Wild has the best
Nicholas Eames.
finale of any fantasy book I've ever read.
Ooh,
The final battle
wow.
in that, dude, they would spend the budget of an entire movie on just that battle scene alone.
Ooh, I gotta buy it. I gotta buy it. It's
It's
been on my radar for quite, ever since Mike started talking, Mike's book reviews.
yeah.
Oh
I
my,
just
Nicholas
wish
Eames.
the sequel had been able to follow up and be as interesting, but I have a
Okay.
couple of that seems to be a lot of people's feeling too. The sequel didn't follow through as strongly as the first one did.
Pritchard Pub. I appreciate that because look. So I got a green screen because look, I've got a deep freezer behind me, and look, I'm still learning the chroma key, if you will. I still don't have a freaking clue what that means. So I'm trying. I appreciate that you like it. I'm doing my thing. Lou, I'll be honest, thought Indie Fantasy was going to be a sub. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. Look, dude,
that
you
that
are
was the
literally
feeling. Yeah, that
literally
was the
in
feeling
our
when it first came
brains.
out, that it was just going to be a bunch of mid slop that, you know, had no quality control. But as the Macho
Oh,
Man always said, the cream rises to the top.
yeah.
And
Oh,
when I started sitting down, I was going, okay, The Black Crown is the book I'm going to write and finish all the way through and, you know, put out there and try to send to publishers. About the time Indie Publishing I had started getting ads for them, Facebook feed back when, you know, Boomer Book was still worth being around in. So I started seeing ads. Jim Wilburn was one of the first that I saw, and I started picking up a couple of indie novels on reading them on my e-reader. I'm like, oh wow, these are good. Like, these are edited.
yeah.
This isn't shovelware. This isn't slop.
No.
This is. And as I started my channel to try and build a readership and started getting into more indie stuff, I started coming across the indie fantasy YouTubers like you have. A lot of the people up here. Some of these guys have been up here since I first started collecting the books, and it's been that way ever since. And I made that decision. Look, I'm going to go indie publishing because obviously there's not a place for me in the trad market, which is at the moment not even doing all that well. All the passion
No.
and creativity is in the indie spaces. So that's where I want to be. And that's where I want to put this, put my work out, make my mark on it as well. But also try to give back to, to people something worth reading in, something worth investing in, a new universe. Not the 10,000th remake from Hollywood, from something that was already remade 20 years ago.
Something cool though that you've done is you've opened up Pandora's box. This story will outlive you and me and everybody in this chat, and I just absolutely love it, man. It's just so learning about just writing period, which is something I'm doing at the moment for the first time, and learning. I want to be where John is eventually. I just look up to it so much, and like I said, it will outlive you. And I think that's the coolest thing. You will live on through your stories well after we're gone.
I will strive to finish at the very least a lot of the stories that I've been trying to tell. I probably should get to talking about some of the book, because as much as I love talking about indies, here in the last several streams, like, I get talking about stuff and I end up getting caught with conversations. I forget to finish talking about my book.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, we're definitely going to finish that. That's the reason we're here. What is the age range, the target audience for the Black Crown?
I would say definitely around 15 to 16 and above, because I didn't want it so diluted that it felt like a YA novel, because there's definitely more adults reading fantasy these days.
Yeah.
But it's, you've got your fantasy violence. You've got a couple of moments that are a little dark, and even some horror elements. You also have a good sprinkling of some salty language. I do not like not to excess. I don't like excessive swearing in my books, and because over time you get used to it and you get tired of it, and it loses impact. I kind of sprinkle it around when it's necessary to the narrative. One of my characters, though, Cortland Lowhelm, who is a potato farmer's son turned into a low rent guard, he uses a lot of rural colloquialisms, right? So he comes from a deep valley. So, like, all his, a lot of his stuff sounds like he's using it in the same way you would use curse words, but it's obviously stuff that's not. He likes using phrases like festering piss bucket and calling people an irritating arse rash and
a festering piss bucket.
Yeah, festering piss bucket, and that's one of my favorites. And I tried to make everything he spat out original, so it didn't all, didn't use the same thing too much.
If you guys like creative cuss words, by the way, real quick, if you guys like creative cuss words, Jay, oh my God, Empire of the Vampire, Jay Kristoff.
Yeah,
oh my goodness,
I heard that conversation on your channel the other day.
He will look. He'll have you belly laughing when your wife's asleep, and she will wake up so pissed off.
I heard a couple. It sounds good.
It is. I'm not going to repeat too many of them. I want you to find them for yourself because it's gold.
Yeah.
Pritchard, I know John answered you, but Beard of Darkness book reviews. Thank you so much.
Give him a sub. You just crossed 700 too, by the way.
I did.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
You're racing up there.
Look, guys, it takes work. It does. So I appreciate that. Just so Charlie Cavendish,
Thank
my
you,
guy,
Charlie.
just
Appreciate
grabbed
that.
my copy of Black Crown. Only the ebook for now, but we'll get the physical copy when I can. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. For orcs ages 16 and above.
Yeah, there you go. There's it should be okay as long as especially these days, teenagers get a little exposed to a little more, mature content than maybe we did when we were growing up.
Yeah.
But as long as I probably wouldn't give this to a kid. Unless you want to hear them start yelling festering piss bucket all over the place. They might.
I have a 3-year-old, and he is saying some words that I've never said in front of him. I don't understand it.
They're really good about that.
They are. I'm not going to repeat those because I'm going to keep it halfway clean tonight. Maybe another time.
I'm behaving myself too. This is streaming to my channel.
Exactly. So when did you discover personally your love for just literature, comics, etc.? When did you say, "Oh my God, this is it"?
Oh, about the same time I read Jurassic Park. You want to prepare yourself. This is pain to hear. Okay, this is going to be painful to hear as a guy. When I was 12, about that time, my father sold his 69 Chevelle.
Oh,
right, because it was I know. It hurts. Oh gosh, it was beautiful.
God.
He's got another one now. It's like his dream car. So he ended up buying and building another one. But look, he sold it because it wasn't a good family car and it wasn't good on gas.
So he's being responsible.
Yeah. And he took some of the money for Christmas presents and we got, some good stuff. One of those things was a very early Hewlett Packard computer and had Microsoft Word on it. And it just came to me one day. I just said, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to write a little story here. And so I wrote it. And I had a cousin in Texas who wrote her stories. And when we found that out, we became each other's best fans. So we would write stories and mail them to each other stuffed in a big fat envelope.
I love that.
We would read each other's stuff. And it was a highlight to get the stories, read what they wrote. And then we call each other and talk. What'd you like? Oh, I like this. What'd you like? I like that. It was a lot of fun.
That's constructive.
Yes. It was great. And it helped of that kind of positive feedback, definitely fueled writing more. I was a hobby writer for all of the 90s and then halfway through the 2000s before I got to this point where I told myself, I'm ready. I'm putting a lot of this energy into these stories. I could probably just do a book and try to make a go of this. And so when that happened, I learned a lot of harsh lessons too about the time. One of those is that, guys, harshest lesson you're going to learn is friends and family are not your audience. Not everybody that you're involved with personally is going to care about your book as much as you do. And you're not always going to get, the kind of critical feedback that you need from family or
that's
friends
hard.
That you kind of want. It's a very hard lesson to learn, but it's kind of necessary. If you got positive backup from your family and friends, that's great. Stick with that, roll with it, and brag about it. But if it don't, it can really hurt some people when they don't get that kind of because it's kind of yeah, critical feedback, but also a little bit of validation, personal, emotional validation from the people that you care about the most. You kind of have to detach that. Friends and family are not your audience. Cater to your audience first. If your friends and family are part of that audience, that's great, but don't always look for it,
That is a wonderful bit of gold knowledge. Thank you, John. That is wonderful because, yeah, you're right. I never really thought of that. Just because somebody's a family member doesn't mean they're into what you're into. In fact,
Yeah.
it's not. It's probably not even close. I can probably say my mom and dad would never be into what I'm going to write.
Yeah.
I want them to read it, but like I'm probably not going to post a review.
Yeah. My mom will probably read my stuff just because I wrote it.
Yeah.
But she's not a fiction reader, so
yeah,
and
that makes sense.
And that's all well and good.
Who are some authors that you would say have a hand in the way that you write?
Well, I already listed one, Sarah Douglas. That was a very big one too. I like Terry Goodkind as well. He's a competent writer, even if he's a bit of a mixed bag in what comes out the other end. But believe me, that's a whole stream in and of itself.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's just, here and there. I don't follow too many, I don't always latch on to just one or two authors. I will say I did enjoy Game of Thrones for a while, although these days I've kind of soured on it because, obviously he hasn't finished the books and it doesn't look like he will. The shows, yeah, I
couldn't watch them. They're too sexual.
Oh, yeah.
Very sexual, guys. Now I can read that, but like when I'm watching a show with my wife, the graphic sexual content just doesn't work with me. It doesn't.
I can understand that. Everyone's got their preference, but I was a fan in how he wrote and how he told the story, but not, he definitely set out to write Game of Thrones and as kind of a Tolkien was wrong. People aren't really good and virtuous in real life. They're actually kind of shit and they treat other people like this. So he set up a really good, like kind of classical fantasy, he set up a lot of characters to be heroes. He knocked some of them down. But now he's got to the point where, he doesn't really want to elevate the character as being a hero. You kind of saw that with the end of the shows. That the end of the shows, if that was true to the narrative of what he's writing, was very disappointing for a lot of people. And I think he saw that and figured either he would change it or just not finish the books and not have to worry about it. So I kind of, unlike a lot of people who are like, oh, I can't wait for the next book. I'm not. I may read Winds of Winter if that comes out. But, guys, I've let myself go from Game of Thrones because he's not going to finish the books. And one, he's too old. Two, he's written other books instead of the books people want him to write.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Three, this is something nobody else really says. If you look how he tells a story, he can't do it in just 2 books. If you look at where he left off in the series and where he has to end,
I'm ignorant.
2 books, like he would have to super condense so many events. And he left so much. There's way more material in the books where it left off than that he has to have resolved in a competent way before he even gets that. No, he would need at least 4 books. And I just don't think it's going to happen. Now, I'm sorry. Now, I don't know about Patrick Rothfuss. I've heard Name of the Wind is very good, but I'm not going to touch it until he gets that 3rd book out there.
Ooh, you are, man, it's crazy how much you and I kind of do the same thing. Real quick, Lou says it's been 13 years. Yes.
Yeah.
Now I want to also say that I think an author should do what they want, when they want, how they want. I don't think people should be like bullying him or Rothfuss. But I do think that by writing a saga, a series, you have an obligation to your readers as well. So it's kind of like this double-edged sword.
There's a little bit of wiggle room there for like, hey, I'm trying to get the story just right. But when you're hitting over a decade, dude, the last time a Game of Thrones book was published, I had a different career. I only had 1 kid, and I lived in a completely separate town. I had moved twice and had 4 different other jobs in the time since then. Like, man, at some point.
He's measuring in jobs.
Yeah.
I love it. I love that.
Life comes at me fast. What can I say?
No. I think that's a wonderful way because listen, we've all had those we've all changed jobs in our lives, and we know how long that takes usually. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think that's a wonderful thing. I'm saying that it's been a while, and however you notice that, you notice it in your own way. I think that's great. And like I said before, I think that you have an obligation as an author, if you have the fan base that George R. R. Martin has, to kind of finish that. And same with Rothfuss. I don't Rothfuss. He does a lot of videos that I can't watch. I don't know what that means. I kind of do, but at the same time, I'm not really going to be like go into it too much. But
I was watching a recent episode of Critical Role Campaign 1, and he guest starred in a couple of episodes as a guest character. And they made a joke about him finishing his third book. And I looked at the date on the video. They were joking about it 6 years ago. And he had this laugh on his face. And I'm like, dude, come on. And then this whole thing with him releasing a novella set in the universe.
That's like a retelling of a story.
Like at some point you're kind of dragging your heels on the issue. You know what the fans want, always deliver. I always say this, unless you have the skill to pull off subverting people's expectations, don't do it. Deliver their expectations. I'll never forget, I was watching WWE, and I'll never forgive them for this. They had Sting and The Undertaker at the same time in the company for a very brief period of about a year and a half or so. Sting had 3 matches, and none of them were The Undertaker. They were on the same WrestleMania card, and they were not fighting each other. And they even went out. Vince even went out like the day after WrestleMania and saying, "We don't know what's going to happen next with Sting." And the entire crowd was screaming Undertaker at him, and I'm like, "Listen to your fans. You know what they want. They're trying to tell you what you can print money when you listen to your fans." And it's playing wrapping up my trilogy within the next 12 years. Thank you, Jeffrey. I appreciate that.
That is that's a solid timeline, and there's something to expect.
Yes,
for your fans. And look, you've got 2 of them. You're looking at them.
Yeah,
what an adventure, guys! Oh my gosh!
I see the comments. I don't want to turn this into a wrestling stream, as fun as it would be. Because believe me, what's that old meme they had a couple years ago? What topic can you talk about with no notice and talk about for an entire hour with no prep whatsoever? For me, it's why I stopped watching pro wrestling.
Dude, I got Deborah McMichael's and Owen Hart's autograph like a week before he died.
Oh,
do you remember that? Yeah, and it's gone. It's gone. I don't remember. I was very young, maybe 11, and I probably lost it. I know. Yeah, but rest in peace, Owen Hart, man. Something like the harness broke and he fell to his death.
Yeah, very, very sad. Very sad.
Tragic, man. But yeah, that was my experience with that. I think I kind of lost hope after, and that was a long time ago. That was like 2001.
Yeah. Trust me, it got varying degrees of better and worse after that. I stayed with it for probably a long time. But 2019, I was caught in this cycle of expectation and then disappointment by what we were given. And guys, I hit that same cycle of misery with mainstream. I was getting hyped for new shows and new adaptations, and then it was just one constant disappointment after another. Especially with fantasy television, which I did enjoy growing up. I loved a lot of different things. I loved that movie. The movie Kroll was awesome. Dune, Hercules and Xena, I used to watch on the regular. But when it came to, and then they adapted Wheel of Time, and within a minute they had screwed up the lore. And I'm like, these people don't know what they're doing. And I got in a fight with I call it twits of time over on Twitter, the Wheel of Time TV show fans.
Yeah.
My God, I don't know how they clench their buttocks without decapitating themselves. They are in such denial about the quality of that show. And
that means their head was up their ass, people.
Yeah, about how good. Oh, it's great. It's great. No, it's not. If you're not, and they have all the cope and excuses in the world for a lot of these projects. Willow was one. Witcher. I was into Witcher season 1, and then in season 2, probably my biggest gripe with that show is showrunners very obviously did not want to write with Geralt in mind. They were more interested in Yennefer and Ciri, and it showed. And they even came out in interviews and said it. They were annoyed by Henry. How can you have Henry Cavill on your show and you were annoyed that he is a bigger fan of the source material than the people writing the show? And they pushed him into the background so much. He was a guest spot on his own show. He was the title character and you barely saw him.
Christopher D. He has the DVD right there on him. I love that, man.
Good man. Good man.
Yes. So back to why we're here.
Yeah. Sorry about that. But
no. I'm sorry. We both got on a tangent. I get it.
I just said, fine, I'll do it myself. And all the other indie authors have followed through and come through for me as well.
I love it. So the Black Crown.
Yes.
What's next for you, John? Are you kind of just feeling things out? What's going on? What's next for you?
Well, what's next? I'm already about 12,000 words into book 2, which is the next entry point. Wait, should I talk a little more about the Black Crown itself? I mentioned a couple characters, but
yeah. So the subgenre is what I was going to get back to.
Yeah, the subgenre. Okay,
let's get into the subgenre.
Yeah. It's got a lot of the things that I like in it. I like found family. As weathered a trope as it is, I like a good coming of age story. And
yes, I agree.
Even though it is a weathered trope, and everyone's heard it before, like I definitely felt this was the smartest place for this story to start and, carry through with those characters. This is very much it is a very good coming of age, becoming a man kind of story for Ragoth. And he's kind of guided in that journey by the other characters that are along with him. I like found family. Yes. I like positive brotherhood, and having positive friends, positive male friends, which is a talent that Hollywood seems to have lost these days.
Yes, I agree.
And I like having some of the things I've enjoyed. Like I'm old enough to have been back in the time when the heavy of the group being a strong Amazonian style female was novel enough that I still wanted one for mine. I actually can share the picture of some of these characters on the slides via StreamYard. Thank you, StreamYard. Let me bring that up. This is by artist Neutron Boar. That is a picture of Ragoth that he did for me. This nails it. That is 100% what he looks like.
I love that picture. Look at the details of the pants, the boots, the creases in the cape. I love it. I say cape. What would you call that?
Cloak. He's got a traveling cloak. Yeah, and that is dude is amazing. Dude does great work. And
who did it?
He's an artist. He's an artist named Neutron Boar.
Okay, Neutron Boar.
And I'll always shout him out because he was nice enough to provide this. So he's Rags is the main character of the book. Rags has been living in isolation all of his life because his mother was the queen. His father was an orc warlord, a very infamous one. But he's lived in isolation in a library wing of his castle his whole life. He's a voracious reader. He's a knowledge sponge. And as smart as he is, he's all book smarts, but he's no street smarts. He's, good-natured but naive to a fault. So when the shenanigans happen that gets him exiled and he has to make a quest to the wild lands of Dreadmore to find his father's orc tribe, he's set free in this world that he's only read about in books. And another important thing to remember about him, he has perfect recall with his memory. And because of that, he ends up kind of becoming the knowledge repository for the reader. So when you come across situations in the world where he's, coming up on places he's only read about, he's able to, give a little bit of exposition, just talking out loud because he's so excited. I've never been in this city before. I've read this and this and this about it. And he knows where everything is because he read the map and he is able to recall that perfectly. So he knows where he is. But he doesn't know, about the social interactions, about the potential dangers that are out there. This is where the side characters, kind of come in. The other POV character of the book is, I mentioned him earlier, the POV, the potato farmer's son, Cortland Lowhelm, who is this fiery tempered, cantankerous. We've all read the stories about a farm boy, right? That goes out to become a knight. The difference is, Court is imagine Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. He's the big fish in the small pond, the biggest guy, the tallest, toughest guy, and could pretty much be the king of that little part of the world. But imagine if Gaston said, "You know what? I'm better than this," and he wants to go out in the world and become something much bigger than himself, be larger than life. That was where Court came from, and that's the kind of skew that I put on that old trope. Is that Court is, he's a pugilist. He loves fighting, and that's usually his response to most of the situations he finds himself in, especially the ones he ends up getting his mouth ends up getting him into.
I love that.
Yeah, he's the opposite of Rags. He is all street smart, even if he's not book smart. So, these two characters end up, bouncing off of each other. And Court's chapter starts off with him leaving. He wants to leave with an adventuring party, but this is called the Age of Adventures, the age that they're living in, but it's kind of winding down, like the dying days. Hey, Master of the TDS, good to see you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
It's kind of winding down like the dying days of the Old West, right? Like there's not a lot of places to go and be an old gunslinger anymore. There's fewer all the dungeons have been delved. The adventuring guilds kind of scoured as many as they could find, and there's not really a lot of places left for them to go, and they kind of have to go out and find where he wants to go with this. He wants to be in an adventuring party. Cortland does. So, but he ends up getting stuck with a religious goodwill worker, an elf named Denny, who's part of a sect called the Unexalted Faith. And I'm sharing that picture. Denny is helpless for all intents and purposes. He doesn't know how to hunt. He's a pacifist. He can't use magic. He's what's called arc blind. He is not even able to use magic at all. And so basically he's just kind of a spare seat. And he ends up coming along with them, even the times Court questioning, why is he even here? He's helpless. He can't do anything. And so the three of them meet very early in the narrative, and they realize, well, we've got a long way to go. Court's got his old nicked sword from his guard job and a battered shield. So they realize they need a little muscle. So they hire an experienced veteran adventurer named Valmora, who I'm sharing here. And Mora is roughly 7 feet tall, an experienced, she's a former arena champion. And they meet her. She's kind of exasperating, kind of over adventuring, but she's also down on her luck. Her gold's kind of running out. She's throwing bums out of taverns just to pay for her own drinks. So, they offer her some gold to escort them safely to the lands of Dreadmore. And, off they go on their adventures. And Mora, I really liked writing because, look, I used to train some Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I mentioned this earlier. I've never liked the false dichotomy between strength and intelligence. It's a game mechanic. Dude, some of the baddest sumbitches I've ever met in my life were not braggadocious. They were not stupid at all. They were borderline geniuses in what they were doing. They didn't need to walk into a room and prove they were the baddest sumbitch the real badasses walk into the room, cross their arms, and look around and make sure,
don't say a fucking thing.
No, and that's kind of more, of course, her being 7 foot tall and so, imposing kind of helps in that regard. Yeah, of course. It's a fantasy. I don't understand modern. I don't understand a lot of the readers that are going into a lot of modern fantasy, like the modern D&D stuff, and especially on TV and movies, where they're like, we need this. They seem to like ugly people. And I think that's because the people that are making it are kind of insecure and ugly. So they make people that don't make them feel threatened. But I come from old school fantasy. So I understand
Yeah.
that old school fantasy is about extremes and ideals.
Extremes, exactly.
You know? So yeah, you need a character to latch onto, but you also there's no reason not to have characters that are signifying the extremes of an ideal of what a man or woman can be. And plus, like I said, I'm old school enough for where this kind of character was interesting enough at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, I need some water here.
Get it. Drench those vocal cords. I get it, brother.
Yeah, and Moira is a fun character to write because she ends up becoming the kind of the big sister of the group. And,
okay, yeah, literally.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, both emotionally and literally. And off they go on their adventures. There's a lot more characters in the book, but it's the dynamic between the main four that really drives it forward. And what I really kind of focused on, I had this moment early in the very first draft of the book. There's a point when the main three characters take refuge in a barn, and the little pact to follow Rags to Dreadmore is kind of made, right? And I have this writer's intuition when something works and when it doesn't work. Something sat in my gut for days. Like, I was like, that doesn't sit right. I don't want to rewrite that. Let me go back. I reread the whole book up to that point. I was like, what is wrong with this that I don't understand? And then it hit me. Between Rags, Denny, and Court, all three characters sounded the same. There was no distinction between these characters in the dialogue. I said, oh no, I've got to retool this. And that's when I went back and retooled Denny becoming much more of a demure and compassionate character. Court becoming much more of a firebrand, and an ego-driven pugilist. I was leaning on characters that are like the antagonistic best friend, right? Yeah. Guys like Vegeta and Bakugo, who are the kind of characters that said, nobody kicks the main character's ass except me. And kind of went into that mentality with it, and it's kind of paid off very much so, if the reviews that I've been getting are any indication. And go ahead. Hey, Nick Horvath.
Nick coming up. Wonderful. I have to shout out his book, Sledge versus 11th. Dude, man, I'm telling you guys, if you like punchy action noir, it was my introduction, and what an introduction it was, guys. Sledge versus Labyrinth. Go check it out. And what a
great title, right?
Yeah. And there's such a meaning behind it.
It's evocative of a lot of like, it just brings to mind a great story that I would like. Oh, I like that title. I would like to write something that justifies having this kind of a kick-ass title.
It's absolutely. We're just kind of talking about the main thing here, the Black Crown, John's debut, I almost said album, book.
Not a musician, sorry.
And it's just one of those. It's classic fantasy. Would you say epic fantasy? Would you say high fantasy?
It's definitely epic fantasy in kind of the classic vein, but it takes a lot of interesting new views and new looks at things that are familiar to. If you're familiar with fantasy just in general, this will feel comfortable to you, but different enough that it won't feel stale.
So you sent me a kind of a video. Should I play that?
Yes, this is the release day trailer narrated by my good friend Animane, was in the chat a little earlier. I didn't get a chance to say hi to him, but he's got his own channel, and he's got a comic book coming out next year.
Hell yeah.
And he killed it with this. I can't thank him enough.
All right, so 3, 2, 1, guys. This is amazing. Here it is.
What makes a good adventure? It's not hard. You only need the basics. A world of endless intrigue, steeped in the arcane. A place where anything is possible. Where adventure is just over the next hill. You need someone special. Someone unafraid to face the unknown just to see what's on the other side. Someone waiting all their life to answer the call of destiny. Someone like Prince Ragoth. You need danger. specter of evil, the threat of war. Because without darkness, you can't appreciate light. You need friends, friends who guard with strength and guide with wisdom. For the family you find can be a bond stronger than steel. But the most important thing you need for an adventure is a story. John A. Douglas presents The Black Crown. Because what's a little adventure without a story to tell?
That ended up a lot better than I thought it would.
Epic, man.
Yeah.
I loved it. I was going through McDonald's when you sent that to me. And it's funny. I said, oh my God, I got to stop and show my wife because, dude, it was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I'm so happy for you. I think that the narrator did a wonderful job. And that's
Woo indeed.
So cool, dude.
It's become I really enjoy video editing and putting a lot of this stuff together. I use a video program called Filmora. And one of the things I did to kind of try and make my book reviews stand out just a little bit is to take at the start of my reviews, I read the blurb or a very good select excerpt from the book and try to give it as good of an epic delivery and, do a video editing to make it seem as epic and awesome as kind of like a little trailer for the book as well. Because, indie authors, like I said, they want someone to care about their book as much as they do. They want someone to be there. And that's at the very least something I can do for them is be their biggest fan. And like I've said, I've enjoyed every one that I've read. I have one I read recently that was not very good, but it wasn't even the story ideas that were bad. It was the technical execution of it that really needed work. And it kind of made it difficult to read. I don't DNF. Yeah. I really get bugged when I read a book and I don't finish it. And years down the road, I'll be like, I wonder what was the end of that book that I stopped reading. And I'll have to go find it again and finish it. I've come close a couple times. One of the Terry Goodkind novels had me literally at work. I was reading on my lunch break and I was like, I grabbed it and I chucked it across the room into a trash can. I'm like, and then like an hour later, I'm like, I'm going to wonder what happened. I'm going to wonder how it ends. And I went and picked it back up and finished it.
Now, was it worth the finish? Okay. Well, at least you finished it and you know that.
Yeah.
So I think Timothy Wolf can understand that. I think a lot of us who read fantasy can, or read period, because I don't like to DNF books either. It's one of those things I feel like if somebody sends me a book, I have to read it throughout and give an honest review about it. So we've kind of went through what was next for you. Who is somebody you would like to see me interview on the channel? I love the answers to this.
I think you want me to mention the ones I kind of sent you in?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I definitely think you need to get R.H. Snow on here. She is such a great interview and such a wonderful talker. Nobody talks about books quite like she does. And guys, y'all, if the indie fantasy booktubers have not heard of her, it's because she writes a book that has a lot of tags in it. It's a sci-fi, post-apocalyptic Western romance.
Oh wow!
Think Beauty and the Beast set in Fallout with a lot of Western overtures to it.
Oh, that sounds attractive. I like that.
She's a Texas housewife who is an OG nerd. She was playing Dungeons and Dragons when it first was in stores. Oh, wow. And so she's even got a tabletop setting for her books. So, and she loves talking about it. And TJ Lombardi is another dude who's great to talk to. He does the Dying Breed Hunters books. He was on my stream last night. He's really awesome. Great guy. And I think you've already got Jim Wilburn on the docket.
He's on the docket. Yep.
For December. I'll be here for that one for sure. Because
I can't wait to talk with him because he's got a huge influence to you. I know that.
The 7th Cadence was my top indie fantasy of 2022. And that was a bit of a crowded field from what I'd read that year. And definitely if he comes on, Blaine Lee Pardoe is an old school, this guy's just a wonderful, experienced journeyman of a writer. Look, he started writing a new book series last year. No, this year, early part of this year. He started working on it about a year ago. He started publishing it at the start of this year. Bro, he's almost done writing book 6.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he blows through it, and that kind of experience really shows in his writing. He's an experienced BattleTech writer. He was in the not just their novels, but some of their source books as well. And
I love that.
Gosh, he's a wealth of knowledge. Maybe one more. Howard Andrew Jones, the author of Lord of a Shattered Land and City of Marble and Blood, the Hanavar Chronicles. Those took me by surprise, just how much I fell in love with his books. And they're interesting because they're kind of arranged like it's almost like a book version of an episodic TV show where each chapter is a different story. And it does continue an existing arc that's going on, but each one's like a different story in a different location with different characters. And man, it's Hanavar is going to be a character a lot of people are going to talk about in the future.
I love that.
Get a bunch more books under this guy, under this belt. It is really something special. He's a lot like Blanley Pardoe in that his experience in his writing really shows through, and how he forms this sword and sorcery episodic books.
Ooh, I'm excited, man. I'm probably gonna cut it just because I have a newborn. But man, I'm telling you, this has been one of those things. I've been looking because look, guys, I've been bugging John to do an interview for a while, and I think we did it at the right time. I'm so excited for him. Go grab the Black Crown, guys. I know I'm gonna read it and absolutely love it. Show the cover. I love it. It's such a beautiful cover. I love the green orc. And from what I know about John, I know
half orc. In the book, the name for them, I like coming up with colloquialisms because that's what people do. They come up with names for stuff. In the book, they're called Orcborn, but there's a derogative term for them by the people of Allspire, which is Orc Brats, the half-orc bastards left in the wake of the Orc Wars. So, I figured Orcborn sounds like it just sounds better,
Yeah.
Plus, I got tired of typing half-orc over and over again.
No, I think you came colloquialisms. I love that. Man, I'm so excited to read. I'm so happy for you. And this will absolutely not be the last time me and John hop on a stream together. This is just the beginning. Thank you for saying that. Hail the lore. This has been one of my favorites. I've been looking forward to it for a while. I hope that you get all the success in the world, man. I'm so happy. So I want to say thank you to John. Go ahead.
Hey, I'm just getting started. I've got a lot of stories left to tell, and maybe not all of them will be set in Age of Adventures, but you're definitely not going to read my books and feel like you came away feeling like you wasted your time. I respect my readers. Anyone who decides to pick up a book, I expect that they're not going to, they don't want to feel, they want to escape into a world. Okay.
Yeah.
Tolkien was big on escapism. I am too.
That's one hell of a. I love that because, well, for a lot of reasons. I think I could probably go on for another hour about that.
Yeah.
But thank you, John, for letting me borrow you. Thank you for just giving me the opportunity to talk with you about your book. I'm so happy that you reached out to me.
I'm happy to be here. I was looking forward to it. Thank you for helping me launch my book this week.
100%, man. I'll always be here for you forever. Thank you guys for who have watched live. Thank you for those of you that will watch in the future. David T. List, my guy, thank you so much for popping it. Yes, Violence and Vigilance, my guy. Oh, yeah, dude. I'm about to do a review on that. It's been a long time coming.
It looks good, man.
I've had it for a while. So congrats on the release, John. It looks awesome. That's what he says.
Thank you.
So until next time, guys, I hope you have a wonderful night, wonderful evening, wonderful morning, wherever you're at. And until next time, we'll see you later, guys.